What's going on, everybody? Welcome into a special edition of the Daily Energy News Beat Stand-Up here on this gorgeous Friday, March 31st, 2023. As always, I'm your humble correspondent, Michael Tanner, and we are coming to you from an undisclosed location here in Dallas, Texas. I sit here with Stuart Turley, the director and publisher of the world's greatest website, EnergyNewsBeat.com. We're going to bring you our top segments from this week. It was a wild week, Stu. We had a lot of good stuff going on. Do you have a favorite this week?
There were too many to pick, dude. It was nuts.
I'm going to go with Tono because it was the biggest pun one. That was the Ford F-150 electric. Couldn't really pull anything. So my vote's Tono. Not sure if it'll make the top segments, but that's for our producers to decide. I'm going to turn it over to them, guys. We'll see you on Monday.
U.S. weighs expanding Fed's emergency liquidity program to stable First Republic and other regional banks. Michael, this is a can of worms. This is almost giving license for any banker to be an idiot. And maybe Mayor Pete goes and becomes a banker. I'm not sure.
I don't mean to call myself brilliant, but I went on a little mini rant last week on the podcast about this little fact within the announcement when they saved SVB that they will cover treasury bonds at par in the short term. That's it. That's this program that they're talking about in this article is doesn't matter what the current market value of your bonds are, whether or not you've loaded up and you've loaded up on treasury bonds and rising interest rates are hurting you, which remember we saw 25 basis points last week, to now the way the market looks, if interest rates have to continue to rise, which maybe not, will be interesting to see what happens. This is only going to get worse, and this borrowing window, this liquidity financing program that these small regional banks and larger institutions have access to is going to have to stay open indefinitely. I mean, it's just a new version of quantitative easing, and we're inventing new ways to give, it's not normal. It's not QE. We can't call it quantitative easing because that's got a stigma to it. But we can call it a emergency liquidity program, or what are they calling it? Emergency lending facility, BTFP. That sounds just more technical, and okay, fine. Quantitative easing sounds like some marketing guy spun it on you, and so I think people got wary of that. They just went too technical, so people were like, okay, whatever. It's like, no, it's literally the same thing.
Yeah, but I'm still not feeling groovy about this. One way, I'm
not feeling groovy about it either. I'm just saying they're inventing new ways to print money, and it's quantitative easing, getting off the gold standard, emergency Fed lending program. I mean, what's next? They're just going to actually say, "Oh, we're printing money."
It's exactly what it is.
They're just going they're going to come out and just say it. They're like, print another $2 trillion.
What's another couple percentage points of inflation between friends? Pakistan is up to 68% inflation right now.
Woo.
We'll be right behind them here. All right. As we sell off our strategic oil reserves, ponder this. Okay. For those podcast listeners at home, check this out. Check my mic. I did that. See that? Look at the mic. I got the I did that sticker.
You sound horrible. Put the mic back next to you.
How's that? Is that better?
Yes, you were too far away.
No,
this is what happens, guys, this is what happens when your co-host was colonel in the Civil War.
I was dodging a bullet. All right. We can cut that part out if you want.
I don't care. Just keep going.
Okay. One of Biden's answers to combating higher gas prices was to tap into the oil reserves. We all know that he only tapped in. Let's go through some of those numbers. We all know how bad it is. The SPR was established in 1975 due to the 1973 oil embargo. It is now at the lowest rate since 1980, I believe, is when it is. And he basically used this to falsely lower the gasoline prices before the election. Michael, they said they would start buying it at what, 65, 70?
$71 and it's
71.
69.20 and they
And
can't get funding for it. You have to give them credit. They're sticking to their guns and we're not buying. I mean, it's kind of crazy.
but they took all the money that he did and put it and spent it outside of budgets. So they basically stole the money and funneled it. Now,
Okay, I
when
mean,
okay,
I'm not gonna. Okay,
all right, steal,
Fair enough,
misallocate, whatever you want to call it. They misallocated or reallocated to programs.
Reallocated. That's a big difference between stealing.
Is stealing, whatever.
It's okay. Yeah, I won't die on that hill.
No, I won't either. I'm really pathetically upset by this.
Well, I'm upset that they're not refilling. I mean, obviously, I think lowering the volumes of the SPR wasn't a swift move, but you saw you saw it was political. They needed to lower oil prices in order to help themselves in the midterm. And quite frankly, energy inflation was getting so bad that you could have argued maybe that's partly why you do have a little bit of reserve to help slowly tap the markets. Now, bringing it down to the levels that it's at now is a dumb idea. The fact that they're not going back and saying, hey, it's at 71. We originally said we were going to refill at 71, and they're not doing that just shows me there's a moving target over there. And they don't really know what they're saying. They're living in what I would call a day-by-day world. There's no plan over there. They're just saying things to get them to the next stage where then the next decision point and moving forward. There's no second, third, fourth order of thinking over there.
No. The only order they can think of is what they're going to get from DoorDash that evening. It's absolutely pathetic.
DoorDash, Postmates, who knows? I'm a Postmates guy, so if we're doing an ad Postmates all the way.
There you go. Anyway, thanks for letting me rant. Oh no, the Ford 150 Lightning struggled in our towing test. Okay, before we get started on this story, I'm a Ford guy. Love me a Ford.
I agree. Also, I drive an F-150.
I love me a Ford. Yeah, I missed my 250. I had a Ford 250, Ooh. Sold it. Hey, Michael, you're familiar with where my boat is here. And you know what they call the ramp when you're loading and unloading your boat?
Yep.
Divorce Hill.
I don't know what they call it.
They call it Divorce Hill. We would go over in our golf cart and we'd get a bunch of beer and we'd sit there and we'd watch all the men drive the boat in, and the women would back the trucks in or the trailers or vice versa. And it just a divorce. A man and a woman should be married. They should not vote together. So anyway, all right. That being said, Divorce Hill is actually the ramp. We're going to leave all that alone. So when you take a look at lithium batteries, they're saying that when you have a Ford 150 Lightning, it has consider how far you can go. This test was really, really good. And let's go through there. They were warned to expect the range to be cut in half when towing, but the effect of towing these travel trailers proved even more significant. Even with the smallest trailer, they measured a range of only 115 miles. That figure fell to 100-mile with a middleweight trailer and sank to 90 miles with a 7,200-pound. 7,000, that's almost nothing. I mean, think about that. With 775-pound torque on tap, the electric four-wheel shoves off from a stop smoothly and confidently. But it's the lithium batteries. Wow.
I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that the heavier the heavier your load is, the less efficient your battery is going to be because you're less fuel efficient if you've got more weight. So it's like, are we just going to defy all of a sudden now EVs can defy the laws of physics? And nope, it's going to be just as strong.
My four-wheel drive Ford 250 got 9 miles to the gallon, actually 10 miles to the gallon. It was a V10, 10 miles to the gallon, towing a boat, not towing a boat. It was
V10.
Oh yeah, it was beautiful, man. I mean, that bad dog would go up walls. It would take down. Yeah, I mean, it was an animal.
Cruising.
Yeah, it was a bruiser. So anyway, but it never even noticed a boat behind it. So
yeah,
anyway.
so I think it'll be. I think it'll be interesting. I do think you're going to see a decent amount of demand for this because I do think there's a marketplace for this. I think you're going to see companies I think you're going to see construction companies roll this out inefficiently, but that still means there's demand for it. So I do think these are going to quote unquote fly off the shelves.
I don't have a problem with electric. I think electric's going to be great eventually. I just don't. I'm looking for the new next battery technology that I think.
Would you buy one of these?
No. Deep sea floating wind platform heads offshore. Michael, this story is absolutely a hoot, as we say in Texas. This thing is huge. Let's talk about some of the things on this floating platform for one wind turbine.
Yep.
Okay. It will generate 22 million kilowatts of clean energy annually and save nearly 10 million cubic meters of fuel gas, says Mengang Smart Energy. All right. That all sounds really good.
Mm-hmm.
You know what this gigantic one wind turbine's going out to support? An EMP oil derrick. This is going to be supplying electricity to oil derricks that are drilling oil and gas in the China Sea.
Well, as much as I don't want to give credit to China for this brilliant idea, you have to. This, Stu, in my opinion, is one of the most brilliant moves you could do. Think about this, Stu.
Why? Explain to me.
No, time out.
Explain to me. Are you going to buy
What's the hardest thing to get on an offshore oil rig?
Women.
Answer. What?
Women.
Okay. So yes, that you correct. You are absolutely correct. That's the first thing. The second thing, that's a good one. I didn't even think of that one. Okay, back on point. The second thing is fuel, power, electricity. Think about it. They have huge generators that take up huge amounts of space, that cause a huge amount of noise, that cause a huge amount of extra weight, when theoretically you could have that source right next to it and completely be self-sustainable in terms of how you do that. Personally, I think it's a brilliant idea. Do I think we should be doing this in the Gulf of Mexico? I don't know, but I think this is an interesting case study in what on paper seems like a really good idea to me.
This is like something that I believe would be in a movie, or a former Secretary of State is going to be teaching in a college about Benghazi and really how to make a decision. This is dumb. And I'm sitting here kind of going, when you take a look at this, Michael, okay, a rig drills what? Oil and gas. Offshore gets a lot of natural gas. Why don't you just burn, which they do on so many platforms, they burn their own natural gas.
Yeah, but it's going to say, okay, it's going to save you 22 million kilowatt hours. and 10 million cubic feet of fuel gas, because you can't run those generators off the gas that you produce. That's a huge misconception. It's fuel gas, which has to be refined. So they're cutting out the middlemen. I think this is genius.
I could be persuaded. I still think it's a joke.
But I mean, I don't think this wind farm is going to power Houston, but I think a offshore wind farm that specifically is powering an offshore oil pad. I don't know. On paper, this seems to me kind of brilliant. You sent this story like 2 hours ago, and I was like, ooh, I don't know where I fall on this one. I actually am kind of thumbs up on it.
I disagree, and here's why. When you're out in the middle of a oil pad, A, you can't find anybody to date. B, you're sitting there and you're trying to, young single men on the derrick just absolutely are miserable. So old married guys are happy because they're, out there.
Yeah, that's your dream.
Yeah, the dream job. Hey, so when you sit back and take a look at it, you got one wind turbine you're putting electric motors out there, and you have one wind turbine for all these platforms. I think that's a failure. That is a single point of failure. There's only one that's going to support those. I call that a oops. No, I don't like the design on this.
All right. Well, we're going to agree to we're going to agree to disagree.
We're going to follow this story. We're going to follow this story, but
I can't wait till it turns out to be a genius idea.
Oh, coming around the corner. U.S. rakes in $263.8 million from Gulf of Mexico drilling rights. The Bureau of Ocean Management, OBEM, offered 73 million acres in U.S. outer continental shelf. The auction was the first in the oil-rich area since 2021. Exxon snapped up more than 60 shallow water blocks. Good for them. Wait a minute. Hang on. I'm getting a phone call. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. On the phone, that was President Biden. He was grateful for the political donations. He was so happy that he got $263.8 million in his political funds. Nice. All right. Coming around the corner.
Well, I think it's interesting. I think it's first to say, I think there's something that was noted in this article. You said that Exxon snapped up more than 60 shallow water blocks.
Right.
What analysts are saying is that they could be preparing for a carbon capture storage project. That's what those locations could be. The company only came out though yesterday or today and said, quote, "We are only evaluating the seismic and subsurface geology for future commercial potential." How nice would that be? Pay $15 million or whatever they paid,
Right.
Let's say $10 million for whatever those 60 locations were, $20 million. And if that's solely only for science, man, that's some expensive science. I wish I had that type of scientific budget.
But if it's for CCUS or or storage,
it's genius.
It is genius, because then you're going to be able to sell those as carbon credits, and then that's going to pay for itself. It's genius. Absolutely.
Yep. They're 5 to 10 year leases. You're talking about royalty rates of 18.75%. Those the shallow water leases are 12.5 percentage points. The interesting part is, Stu, is that Chevron, while Exxon's snapping up all the shallow water blocks, Chevron is bidding on deep water tracks.
Right.
$15.9 million on one deep water track. It's going to be an expensive well. I'd love to see the AFE on that bad boy.
Oh, no kidding.
200 million.
That would be huge. And the Gulf accounts for 15% of oil production and 1% of natural gas production. Wow, I thought it was a lot more than that on nat gas.
Yeah, I mean it's oil out there, baby. There ain't much gas. You don't want gas out there. You're spending $250 million on a well, Stu. You don't want gas.
No, you want them.
Give me that crude, baby. Give me that thick crude.
You bet. All right.
What's next?
OPEC shows no